police officer in Asheville, North Carolina, one of 31 police officers to quit that department in the last 4 months, wrote that evil is real and that officers are doing their best with what they have in a resignation email to neighborhood groups he'd worked with as an officer. So let's debate the toll that all this anti-police rhetoric and violence is taking on morale for those frontline officers with Fox News contributors Leslie Marshall and Deneen Borelli. Great to see you both.
Good evening, Shannon.
I want to harken back to something, too, we mentioned a little bit earlier tonight in that Minneapolis, not long ago, there were city officials there who were talking about how they were going to disband the police force. And yet what we hear now from Jamal Osman, who's a newly elected council member, he says residents are asking, where are the police? That's the only public safety option they have at the moment. They rely on MPD, and they're saying they are nowhere to be seen. So, Deneen, that's what the leaders were asking for, less police there. And now it seems the community is letting them know, not working for us.
Well, it's terrible. These politicians have left their constituents out to dry. And don't forget, the city council in Minnesota, they voted to defund and disband the police. Meanwhile, some of these members have private security. They hired private security at taxpayer expense. So they're hypocrites. They don't care about the citizens, their constituents. And it's a shame because law-abiding citizens want law and order. And you have the citizens now who are begging their politicians, their local officials, to do something when, in fact, they're only looking out for themselves, these city council members.
Well, this comes on the same day that we get information about the insurance industry has done a study on what all of these riots that started in May and have gone on for months in different places at different times. The headline from Axios says $1 billion plus riot damage is most expensive in insurance history. So this sets a new record. Well, here's what Rush Limbaugh had to say about that today. Leslie, how do you respond to those numbers and his assessment?
Obviously, if you're going to look at the dollar amount that correlates with damage, and damage being from violence, well, then it's easy to say, look, this isn't very peaceful. But the overwhelming majority of protesters, city after city, state after state, are in fact peaceful. Look, we're in an election year. We have a country that's extremely divided, an election that's going to be very close. It behooves those on the left to say it's not as bad as it seems. It behooves those on the right to say that it's worse than it seems. Look, violence is wrong. Joe Biden has denounced it. Every Democrat that I know has denounced it, myself included. This is not the way to fight racial injustice, and that's what the peaceful protesters who are in the majority have been fighting about since the murder of Mr. George Floyd.
Meanwhile, a number of the protesters who were arrested in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Let me just get this in quick, and I'll give you a chance to respond, Deneen. This is what the Blaze headline was. Leftists charged in Lancaster rioting learned to the tune of $1 million bail each. Their antics don't fly in Pennsylvania, Dutch country. Things have quieted down there by most accounts. So, Deneen, your take on that really heavy-handed approach. The ACLU says it's outrageous. It's got to be rolled back. But it seems to be quieting things down, and these folks aren't immediately back out on the street because it's really hard to come up with that kind of money. Fair or not?
Well, I think it's fair. They're setting an example for others to know that and other states need to recognize this as well, where they're having all this rioting and looting and violence that's going on. This isn't. This should be a tough on crime measures that should be taking place. And thank goodness Lancaster is pushing this initiative. But let me just say this: I think Democrats are soft on law and order. We've seen these mobs for months, weeks on end, and the Democrats are only just now commenting on this. Joe Biden just recently commented because it's affecting him in the polls. You have Kamala Harris totally on the wrong side of law and order. She was supporting a fund for people to donate to bail out rioters from jail in Minnesota. And some of Biden's staffers donated to this fund. So it's outrageous what we're seeing and hearing coming from the side of Democrats. And now you have some of them saying, well, we've been pushing back on it. No, you haven't. And that's why everything has escalated the way that it has. And Americans are suffering.
Leslie is among those who has been.
Businesses are suffering.
Yeah, Leslie is those, as she noted again tonight, is among those who has denounced this from the beginning. We got to leave it there, but both of you, please come back. Leslie and Dean, good to have you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.